Okay, so in returning to our collage creature here, I've got a lot of components that I'm using. I have some I still need to alter the color of, and some I still need to clean up, like the bottom of his body here. But now, I'm fairly certain I don't need a lot of these smart layers anymore. So I'm going to start editing. I'll select all my smart layers and delete them. I'm going to keep the gray background. I'll keep my sketch as well. But then I'm going to crop a little bit closer to my creature because I don't need all that extra space anymore, design space. And this will help everything work a little bit quicker, process more clearly. And it's nice to have both a white background of your sketch and a middle gray background as a fill so that you can really check your edge quality as you're cleaning it up. So soft surfaces like this fur, I want to be slightly soft at the edge. Harder surfaces like the bone horns or whatever that's made of, they're going to be a little bit crisper. Smooth surfaces like the flippers here, even with the sand on them, you want those nicely contained. Now, clearly there's some stuff I need to clean up here, and then I have just two other elements, actually three other elements I wanted to work with. So I'll get to review a little bit how to work with their color and their lighting in order to make those fit. But first, let's clean up this body. So a handy trick is to use the Move tool to auto-select layer. And that way, when you click on a surface, click on a layer, it should automatically select it. And now I get to use my tablet and my lasso. And because I have a lot of nice overlap here, I can start working to define what I want to be the bottom edge of this creature. Try to avoid that water line. Then roughly cut that out. So I can cut it just cleanly with delete, but that's going to be extremely sharp, so that I might want to refine edge. And I've remembered my settings where I'm just feathering a little bit, just expanding a little bit. You can see it in the preview. That's just going to soften and smooth that just a little bit. So I say okay, I delete, and then I can hit delete multiple times to smooth that bottom out. And then the same on this side. Because the colors and the contrast are so close, I'm not going to try to use the magic wand, at least not at the top there. And I'd like you to get pretty comfortable with your stylus, so that you can do this kind of stuff freehand eventually. Delete, refine edge, expand the selection, and soften, and delete a few times. Get a nice cut out there. Okay. And then, if I want to be really particular, I can try to differentiate the body from that back foot. I probably should do. And all of this is the same stuff we've been doing. And then if we need to fine-tune anything, we can do it with 100% eraser and just get in there ourselves. Make sure it's on pressure sensitivity as a brush so that you can make those distinctions. All right, so I've got a shape I like there. But you see how this texture and color doesn't quite match yet. Especially here where there seems to be a lot of reflected light from the water, whereas here on the tail it's quite dark on the bottom. So this is where I'm going to play with the lighting of that layer. I've already played with the basic levels, and I don't want it to get too dark up here. So instead, I'm going to use the targeted levels, which is the burn and dodge tools. So I go to burn, I'm on midtones, exposure of about 27, and I'm going to start darkening the bottom here, even where it overlaps. And then because of the reflection of those water droplets, I'm actually going to switch it to burning the highlights. And I'm going to work to burn those down as well, especially behind the foot, especially on these water droplets. You see how that's really going to push back those bright spots so they just become a little bit more believable as texture. Because this is in shadow, I'm pretty safe burning my highlights. And I have a lot of these water droplets that are distracting. I want them to become more like textural kind of barnacles on the surface of my creature. Now because we're dodging and burning, it won't let me go any further than the border of what would be considered a midtone. So I don't need to worry about overdoing it. I just will, if I was worried about anything, I'd worry about losing my highlights. But I don't want to burn the shadows because then I would just go to black very quickly. All right. So now I'm going to look at this layer. See what parts of it are there. And then it shows me that I can still burn this little spot here. But now, since I burned it from highlights, I need to go back to midtones and now take that back down further. So after you've burned your highlights, they are now midtones. And if you want to take them down further, you can. Like maybe right at the edge. Make that go a little bit darker. By burning now the midtones. And that helps quite a bit. Okay, the other element I need to clean up a little bit this really cool coral that I want to integrate into the back, give him more dramatic shape, more alien looking. The problem is, because I used the magic wand to select around it, which did a fairly good job, I'll clean that up, but I have this little border that's left that I need to erase. So make sure these elements get fully cleaned up. On all sides. I don't want little ghost images floating around. Whoops. And I want to only get the border, but not accidentally erase all this soft transition I've built in. There we go. Okay, now if I want to soften that outside edge a little bit more, I can use my magic wand, select the empty space, and then, of course, refine edge. This will bite in a little bit because I have it shifted and feathering. I'm going to hit delete quite a few times just so I don't have any kind of little floating debris. And I still have a little bit, so let me do it one more time. I see these little floating dots. I'll be able to get rid of those. All right. And then anything that remains, I can just do by hand. That middle gray come through. It's always a balance of working for speed and working for quality. Okay, so now he's got this crazy thing on his back. Let's play with its color. Let's see if the overall adjustments can help it. So levels, let me shift the midtones. Should they go darker? Should they go lighter? Maybe just a touch. It's hard to say. Just a touch lighter. Shadows a little bit darker. I like the highlights where they are, I think. Maybe just maybe a tiny bit brighter. See if I want to limit things. I don't think I want to limit them because I want the dramatic shape and texture. Right now, in terms of the color temperature, go to color balance. See if we bring a little bit cyan into it, a little bit of blue. Yep, just to deaden it a little bit. So it helps to come from these skin tones a little more. Play with the highlights, maybe warm up the highlights a little. And then cool down the shadows just to make it feel a little more dimensional. Like so. I like the kind of pink showing through there, but I'll continue to work with that. And then lastly, saturation. As a whole, do I want it to be less saturated or more saturated? Maybe just, I don't know. I can shift the hue overall. Just shift that a little bit. And desaturate it just a tiny bit. All right, so those were a lot of changes made. Again, levels, color balance, hue, saturation in that order. Big difference from here to here to here to here in helping it integrate with my other layers. They all kind of blend together. And as one layer, I might still play with its shape a little bit. These old techniques. You just play with distort and shift it up the shoulder a bit more. So it feels more on the back and connected to the vertebrae. Connected somewhere else. Okay, now we get to dodging and burning. Selectively choosing where we need shadows and highlight.